I'm Annette Leonard of AnnetteLeonard.com, and welcome to another episode of Chronic Wellness. I am thrilled today to welcome my guest, Mike Murray, who grew up in Massachusetts, and he retired at 43 after he and his two business partners built a solid and successful company. He's married and has three grown children. He is a self-described avid outdoorsman. And after 3 years of body pain and hip replacement and endless doctor's appointments, he uncovered the emotional root to his suffering and the deep connection between the mind and body. He's documented his journey in an engaging new book, My Pain Body Solution, a journey to the other side of suffering. Welcome, Mike, and thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you how thoroughly I enjoyed your book. You are a gifted storyteller, and your self-reflecting humor, as well as your willingness to share in such an honest, raw, and in-the-moment way, was as engaging as it was instructive. I'm thrilled to have you on this podcast, and even more excited for how many people may read your book and the potential it has to help and heal.
Wow, that's quite your introduction. Thank you very much. And I'm thrilled to be here. And I would say that 4 years ago, before all this started for me, I would never find myself on a podcast like this. So, you know, I feel like my journey is a true gift, and it's introducing me to people I would have never talked to before, and that was one of the gifts that I've received through this journey. So it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking.
Excellent. Well, let's dig right in. So the book opens at the start of ski season in 2016-17, and at the time you were 52 and had been retired for a bit more than a decade. You and your wife had a child at home and two away at college, and you live in New Hampshire and have condo where you ski in Wyoming and vacation, hike, fish, enjoy the great outdoors. And we meet you as you're getting ready to get a jump on tourists heading out in the back country and ski without the resorts. And you seem to be at the top of your physical game and relish mastering the elements. And I get the sense that you are in your element. And then you get a blister.
Yeah, so so you described that accurately, that I was feeling just incredibly fortunate to be able to live in the Tetons. I've got an amazing wife who understands my draw to be out here, and while she would prefer to have me with her more often, she gets the joy. So that particular winter, I was skiing and hiking in the backcountry, and that evening, I developed a blister, and for the next, it's probably almost 2 weeks, and I didn't realize it then, but I see it now. I literally went into this freeze mode. It started to panicking over the blister because I thought it was essentially going to ruin my whole ski season. And I know this probably sounds tone deaf to a lot of people, but you know, it is who I am. I like to ski. So the blister, you know, really consumed my attention, my thoughts. After about a couple of weeks, the blister healed. I didn't miss any time in the mountains, and then shortly later, I developed a hamstring pull that I really couldn't put my finger on it. I was still able to hike and ski, but I was becoming very preoccupied with it. I ended up going back to New Hampshire, which is where our home is, and then developed a shoulder pain, again, with really no explanation. And neither of these injuries were that bad, but I was really getting anxious. I started crying a lot, which I had never done before. Anytime I thought of my kids, I started isolating myself. I was still able to exercise, but you know, I just had a lot of fear, and I didn't know it was fear then, but within, what was it, probably 2 or 3 months of developing these little injuries at the end of the ski season, I had an x-ray and the doctor told me, you need a hip replacement. And that, really rocked my world because, again, these are things I've learned now about myself, really low self-esteem, and always valued myself as an athlete. Not that I'm a gifted athlete, because I'm not, but I felt that was my one true gift. So when all of these injuries started happening, particularly with the hip replacement, my world just came crashing down. And I didn't know any of that. I just knew that I was crying and isolating. And I proceeded to have a hip replacement, a number of spinal injections. And this was all within, probably 3 months of that first hamstring pull. And after all that stuff, really nothing improved. I was still having body pain and anywhere in my body.
And prior to when we meet you in the book, what had been your experience with pain?
So I've been relatively healthy. And I've had a few operations, but those are more of like an ACL or a broken bone. So I was relatively healthy, except, again, here's something else I discovered 10 years earlier. As soon as I retired, I developed shoulder pain in both shoulders, just out of the blue. Saw 2 doctors, and both said, there's nothing we can do, just go to PT. But I was find a third doctor who said he could operate on me and fix me, which he did. So looking back now, what I've learned, I believe those shoulder surgeries I had 10 years ago were really a mind-body condition. So, but other than that, I've been relatively healthy and being able to be active.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So very quickly, things evolve, as you say. You're in PT, you had a hip replacement, you're wanting to isolate more and more. You describe a scene at the mall where you're shopping for a birthday present for your daughter that seemed to me like you had a panic attack.
Yeah, it was, I guess that's what it was. If I can describe it again, my wife and I walked into a mall to shop for my kids. And as soon as we entered the mall, everything came closing in on me. I was, think of the worst nightmare. And that's what I was experiencing. And part of my journey is I've never learned how to express myself. And when I don't express myself, even today, my pain gets worse. So that evening in the mall, I just knew enough to hide it from Becky, from my wife, because I just didn't know how to be vulnerable. And I was really, really scared.
And shortly after that, you see a friend of yours, your friend Carl, and you say, the worst thing is no one can help me now. I don't want to be a burden, so I've just been holding up, isolating for months, dealing with it the best I can. What about you, or about that relationship with Carl, or about that moment allowed you to have that courage, or to just open and be just a little vulnerable with him right then?
Yeah, well, it was really that night after the mall. I kind of convinced myself that I didn't deserve to be happy. I didn't deserve to be happy until I was pain-free, which is really, even saying that now, I have a hard time even rationalizing what that means.
I want to just pause on that for a moment, because I bet there are a lot of other people that unknowingly have that belief. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you didn't believe that you deserved to be happy until you were pain-free.
That is what
that
is the decision I made. And I really like music, and I made the choice not even to listen to music. I didn't listen to music for over a year. And, but that episode at the mall really rocked my world. It felt like someone had given me some powerful drugs that were not agreeing with me. And that's why I reached out to Carl. But that was really only a temporary, even though I reached out to him and I got some emotional relief by just talking to him, I was still a long way from kind of coming out the other end.
Yeah. What pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shoulder reconstruction, arthritis of the hip reconstruction, spinal stenosis, degenerative disc disease, all of these seem so real, so dire, and you are getting the best healthcare, it seems, that money can buy.
You bet.
And after an EMG, which I know that many of the people listening to this will know what that is, doctor number 17, who is a neurologist, says to you, yes, anxiety can definitely cause nerve pain. And you now go back and read a book that Carl had given to you, Dr. John Sarno's book, Healing Back Pain. And you have that very human response. I don't want to live with pain or accept it, I want to beat it. And it's through Dr. Sarno that you learn about TMS. Can you tell us what TMS is, or define it for folks out there that haven't heard of it?
You bet. So when I had met with my friend Carl, when I was leaving his house, he had given me a book, and he said he had not read it, but he said a friend of his who had spinal issues really, it really helped him.
Interesting.
And I was led to believe through my own beliefs that book was about managing chronic pain. That's what I thought it was about. So I had held on to that book for almost a year. And then I was in Wyoming, and I had hiked 3 days in a row with my kids. The fourth day it rained, they left, and I was by myself. I became very sad, and all of a sudden my feet became frozen. And at that point, I just said, I need to learn how to live this for my kids' benefit and my wife's benefit. So I picked up Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno, thinking it was about how to live and manage your pain. And fairly quickly, I realized it wasn't about that. It was about a syndrome called tension myositis syndrome. And the concept is basically that repressed emotions can cause real physical pain. Now, Dr. Sarno wrote this book in the 90s, and he was truly a visionary. But he was also kind of an outcast because of his beliefs, and which really went against big Western medicine. So it was fairly quick into the first 2 or 3 chapters that I knew that was what was happening to me. I didn't know what my emotional issues were, but how he was describing people, how they would isolate, how, I would literally think about pain 90% of my waking hours. That's all I could think about. And I would have so many people say, don't worry about it. And that just made it worse. Yeah. So Dr. Sarno, so it's really it's really just the mind-body connection on how emotions can cause real physical pain, and can cause, in my opinion, can cause disease and all sorts of unpleasant, nagging, chronic issues, I believe. And I truly believe Western medicine, though there's been a subtle shift, really kind of misses the boat on that. You go, if you have a pain in your hip, they're going to take an x-ray. If you have arthritis, that's what their issue is. So picking that book up, I had seen 17 doctors, not including the doctors that I had follow-up appointments, and that all happened a year and a half. And since I picked up that book, I haven't seen another orthopedist since that time. And that was really the beginning of my journey. But his theory was all you need to do is read my book and understand it's your brain that is creating the pain. The pain is very real, but there's really no damage. And Sarno believed that arthritis is just kind of like wrinkles, but on the inside. And I've come to believe that too, because there's a lot of studies with, people with arthritis that don't have any pain. And I'm one of them right now too.
Mm-hmm. Right before our interview, I was at my neurologist, and my neurologist is one of the people who believes these theories, and he is writing a book himself called "It's All in Your Head." and I will say that when a doctor first brought me these ideas, I felt defensiveness rising in me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt, how can you be saying this is all in my head when I feel it in my back, I feel it in my neck, I feel it in my hands, I feel it in my legs.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder for you, what was the experience of being told it's all in your head?
Well, I wasn't told. At this point, I wasn't told that. I just simply read it.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a welcome. I didn't resist. I was more threatened that this pain was from a physical issue than an emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
Having my body fail me was far more threatening to me. And that's part of my child. If you go back and, I put way too much emphasis on my physical and outdoor pursuits. I struggled as a student, so I resisted that, and I didn't get any help with that from my parents. So when I discovered the mind-body connection, for me, it was, this is it. This is what I want it to be. I can beat
Welcome.
that. And people, a lot of people will ask me what my reaction would have been if I had seen a doctor early in my journey, if I would have, like you, if I would have resisted that if they had told me that my pain was really an emotional one. And obviously I don't know the answer to that. And it's also, maybe my lack of resistance, I was just grasping for anything. So, I mean, I'd seen so many people and tried so many different things. So it's tough to know if I embraced the mind-body connection because I truly believed it, or if I embraced it because I didn't want my body failing me. I wanted my body back.
Yeah. Isn't this so good? It's been a great interview, and you will not want to miss tuning in tomorrow for part 2 of the interview, where Mike and I talk about digging into his emotional work and where he, for the first time ever, begins to see a therapist to start talking about the role of these repressed emotions in his life. And he discusses the way that he can look back and see how these emotions are linked to his experience of pain. Also, Mike will talk some about the role of meditation in his life and healing. And I want to highlight My Pain Body Solution. This is Mike's book, and it is such a good read. So if you do not already have a copy, go get one. And if you are interested in winning a copy of this book, go down to the bottom of show notes wherever you are watching or listening, all the way to the bottom, and you will see detailed instructions on how you can win a copy. You can also find the instructions on my Instagram feed at the Annette Leonard, where you see the picture of Mike's book. and I will be giving away a copy on July 5th. So don't miss your chance to enter to win up to 3 times a copy of Mike's book, and tune in tomorrow for part 2 of the interview continued. Thanks so much. See you there.